Hey everybody, welcome to session three. We're going to be talking about how do we lead people in this time? Where are we leading our group over the next few months? And who are we leading them to are the questions I want to ask. So, what is the number one thing we need to do right now in leading our group? And I think the number one thing we can do right now, and we're going to work backwards, but it's to connect them to God and to connect them to others. Right now, connectedness is more important than ever in a time of isolation, in a time where we have to settle in and not get out as much. People are desiring relationships even more. I mean, as we take to social media and to these other places to feel connected, a Zoom meeting with your community group is just like that. It's a place for people to connect with God and to connect with others. So let's talk about others first. We want to connect those in our group. And so, a first step to that is getting our group together, whether we're using Zoom, Google Hangout, whatever ways you're meeting. I know some groups are even doing some extra things like a men's or women's Bible study on another night of the week from within their community group. And so these are creative ways to connect our people to God and to one another. There's other ways that you can be creative in connecting your group outside of a meeting time through a Zoom call or Google Hangout. Just a couple of ideas. One is an app called House Party. This is an app that you can download and use and be able to connect with people to play games. I know that our student ministry has been using this and seeing great fruit from that during a time like this. Also, another one is maybe you used to enjoy a movie night with friends. Well, you can do this through Netflix. Netflix Party is an extension you can add to your Chrome browser to be able to watch a movie together. Now, while it's not having the movie right here and video chat for you to talk to each other. There is a text chat so you can watch the movie together and you have a little text group that you can do that with. So there's some creative ways that we can try to create community in a time like this. Or maybe you have some people and they live in the same neighborhood. Maybe they could go on a social distance walk together and be able to connect in a time like this. So let's get creative about how we can connect one another. This is something I'm really looking forward to talking about in our Q&A as we hear from other groups and how they are staying connected in a time like this. Because again, I think this is the thing that we need the most right now is connection. That our group feels connected to God, connected to each other in this moment. So where are we leading others? How are we being creative and getting them connected? I think the next thing is who are we leading them to? So we're leading people to be connected with one another, but who are we leading them to? And really, it's Jesus. As we're again in Holy Week and we're looking towards the cross, Jesus' life lived for us, his death, his resurrection. We see the good news of the gospel being laid out. And this is what we need in a time like this is to be reminded of who God is, to be reminded of all the things that he's done for us. This is a helpful exercise in a time like this is to remember that Jesus has gotten us through other times and he'll get us through this time. Maybe an exercise you want to do for your group is to have them go back and write down different times where they needed God to come through and they didn't know if he was going to. And then he brought them through to the other side and he did deliver them and he gave them maybe not what they wanted, but he gave them what they actually needed. So a helpful exercise is to go back and what's a storm of your life that you've been in before and then remembering how Jesus has brought them through. Again, that's pointing them to Jesus. That's leading them to him for them to say, okay, he's done it in the past, and God, because he doesn't change, will do it again. And that's encouraging in a time like this. So we need to lead our people to Jesus because it's truly all about him. One of my favorite passages of scripture is Luke 24, where we have these disciples who are walking unknowingly with Jesus post resurrection on the road to Emmaus. And so we see in Luke chapter 24, when Jesus is walking with them, we're going to start in verse 25 and go to 32. So Luke 24:25 says this, and he said to them, O foolish ones and slow of heart to believe all that the people have spoken. So these disciples were walking dejected away from Jerusalem, having hope that Jesus was the Messiah. And here they are walking on the road with who they think is a stranger, and it's actually Jesus himself, and this is him speaking to them. Again, verse 24. Sorry, totally messed up. not verse 24, verse 25. And he said to them, O foolish ones, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory? And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them in all of Scripture the things concerning himself. So they drew near to the village which where they were going, and he acted as if he was going to go further, but they urged him strongly, Stay with us, for it's toward evening, and the day is far now spent. So he went in with them, and when he was at the table with them, he took the bread, he broke it and blessed it, and he gave it to them, and their eyes were open, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. And they said to each other, I love this part, did not our hearts burn within us while he talked to us on the road, while he opened the scriptures to us? Did not our hearts burn within us when he was walking with us and pointing from Moses all the way through the prophets? How the Bible's one story going in one direction, and it's an unfolding story of a God who's come to save his people, and he does that as God in the flesh, Jesus himself coming to save us. And so, in this time, we need to point people to Jesus. We need to remind them that it's all about him and what he's done for us. That we might stir one another's affections up in such a way that we could be like these disciples on the road to Emmaus, that our hearts would burn with desire of what Jesus has done in our life, that it would lead us to want to connect with each other, that would lead us to want to love our neighbors and our family in a time like this. So, are we leading our people to connect with God and to connect with one another? Are we leading them to Jesus? And so I hope this encourages you in this time.